Let's jump right in. Today, in this explainer, we're unpacking one of the most compelling, honestly baffling, and uniquely documented mysteries in all of American UFO lore. We are heading back to 1979, out to the vast empty roads of rural Minnesota. And look, this isn't just your standard story about a weird light in the sky. No, this case is anchored in twisted metal, shattered glass, and cold, hard police records. It's a mystery that is absolutely going to keep you guessing from start to finish.
So consider this chilling question for a second. What actually happens when a routine police patrol collides head-on with the unknown? As we go through this explainer, we're focusing on the tangible, physical evidence and the objective police reports surrounding this event. We aren't just exploring local folklore here. We are examining a very real incident scene that literally left seasoned investigators scratching their heads. Okay, Section 1, a routine patrol interrupted. The events of August 27, 1979.
Let's look at the timeline. Deputy Sheriff Val Johnson was known around Marshall County as a steady family man, definitely not the type to exaggerate. For him, UFOs were just science fiction, right? Not something you'd ever see on your patrol route. So, at midnight on August 27, 1979, he starts a perfectly normal patrol on these remote, quiet farming highways. Everything's completely normal. Then, at about 1:40 a.m., he spots a bright light up ahead. It's about 30 centimeters across, hovering roughly a meter off the asphalt. At first, he thinks, maybe it's a small aircraft. But suddenly, this intense light rushes his cruiser, he hears the terrifying sound of breaking glass, and in the very next instant, he blacks out.
When Johnson finally regains consciousness, he frantically radios dispatch. His exact words were, "Something attacked my car. It wasn't a vehicle. I don't know what the hell it was." To make things even weirder, he later described the physical impact as feeling like being hit by a, quote, 200-pound pillow. It was this massive force, but strangely blunt. Section 2. The physical aftermath, concrete evidence. When backup officers finally pulled up to that lonely stretch of highway, they didn't just find a dazed deputy. They walked into a scene that defied all conventional logic. It was completely baffling. Johnson's Ford LTD patrol car was sitting totally sideways on the road, a full 250 meters down from where the encounter started. There were 30 meters of skid marks on the pavement, but get this, 0 signs of a collision with another vehicle. No traded paint, no external debris on the road whatsoever. The driver's side headlight and emergency lights were just smashed. The windshield was severely cracked, and remarkably, both radio antennas were bent at these incredibly sharp angles, but in completely opposite directions. And you can actually see the historical damage right here. Look at that cracked windshield from 1979 with those unusual web patterns. The damage was so bizarre that it totally stumped the automotive experts who looked at it later. It just didn't match a standard impact. And then you see the car as it sits today, perfectly preserved, a physical piece of evidence from an event we still, decades later, cannot explain. But it wasn't just the patrol car taking the hit. Responding officers found Deputy Johnson in a deep state of shock. He had a bump and some bruising on his forehead, sure, but the wildest part was his eyes. They were intensely irritated. A doctor who treated him at the hospital actually likened the irritation to welder's burns. That physical injury directly lines up with his report of being suddenly engulfed by a blindingly intense flash of light. Moving on to Section 3. 14 missing minutes, the time discrepancy. So, beyond the physical damage to the car and the deputy's injuries, there is a mechanical impossibility here that truly elevates this case to legendary status. The most crucial point is this exact number, 14. Once the dust settled and investigators were assessing everything, they noticed a glaring, undeniable discrepancy. Exactly 14 minutes were completely unaccounted for on Deputy Johnson's wristwatch. And crucially, that exact same 14-minute gap was mirrored right there on the patrol car's dashboard clock. Let's just break down why that is so mind-bending. Based on real time, Johnson estimated he was unconscious for about 39 minutes in total. But the two totally separate clocks inside that vehicle, his personal watch and the car's dash clock, had both completely stopped functioning for a synchronized period of exactly 14 minutes before starting back up again. Remember, this is 1979. These were mechanical, gear-driven clocks, not digital systems where you could just blame a computer glitch. There is simply no conventional explanation for this mechanical anomaly, and it's a huge reason why this incident is forever etched into UFO lore. Section 4, the official investigation, searching for answers. Now, With a wrecked squad car, an injured officer, and a literal warp in time, local authorities did not just sweep this under the rug. Sheriff Dennis Brecky immediately launched a rigorous, formal investigation to find some logical, earthly cause for what went down on Highway 220. They brought in the heavy hitters. First, they checked with the U.S. Air Force and the FAA. Both confirmed there were absolutely no aircraft scheduled in that area that night. Next, they brought in an expert from the Ford Motor Company who inspected the windshield and concluded, yeah, this damage is highly unusual. It wasn't a standard collision, and the crack was positioned way too low to be from Johnson's head hitting the glass. Finally, a metal engineer from Honeywell ran magnetic tests and could only vaguely conclude that some sort of strong electrical force caused the damage. Basically, the investigation just hit a brick wall. There was zero alcohol involved, no misconduct, and absolutely no earthly explanation. Sheriff Dennis Brecky even went on the record stating, "We do believe that our deputy had an encounter with something that we haven't been able to explain yet on this date." Honestly, it is incredibly rare for a local police department to officially recognize and document an event as an unexplained anomaly, but the physical evidence simply left them with no other choice.
Section 5. Believers versus skeptics. The enduring debate. As you might expect, an official police report detailing an unexplained encounter with a blinding light attracted a ton of media attention. Suddenly, these quiet farming communities in Minnesota were thrust into the national spotlight. Deputy Johnson even went on Good Morning America. And with all that attention came an intense, polarized debate that perfectly illustrates the divide we still see today. Now, in this explainer, we're not taking sides, but looking at the theories is fascinating. On one side, skeptics like science writer Philip J. Klass suggested it was all a hoax with self-inflicted damage. Others thought maybe Johnson just fell asleep at the wheel, or perhaps encountered some super rare natural phenomenon like ball lightning. But on the flip side, UFO researchers argued that the sheer volume of physical evidence, the welder's burns, the strangely bent antennas, those synchronized stopped clocks, all of it points to a genuine close encounter with an unidentified aerial craft.
And what really speaks to the cultural impact of this event is how much staying power it has. Take a look at this snippet from a relatively recent Worthington Police News publication. Even today, 45 years later, this exact event is still being written about in local Minnesota law enforcement newsletters under the heading Horror in Law Enforcement. It is literally a story that officers are still sharing and trying to figure out today.
Section 6. An enduring mystery, the legacy of Highway 220. The reality is, the intense media scrutiny and this unending debate took a huge personal toll on Val Johnson and his family. The unwanted attention completely flipped their lives upside down, eventually forcing them to pack up and relocate to Wisconsin just to get some peace and quiet away from the legend of Highway 220. But while Johnson moved on, the evidence stayed right there. That damaged 1977 Ford LTD patrol car was never repaired. It was preserved exactly as it was found on that bizarre night. Today, it sits quietly on display at the Marshall County Historical Society in Warren, Minnesota. It's literally a time capsule of a mystery, just sitting there under fluorescent lights. Which leaves us with this final lingering thought. We have this physical object, a car with inexplicable damage, a 14-minute gap in time, and a shattered windshield, just waiting. As that patrol car sits silently in a museum today, what technological or forensic secrets might it still be hiding, just waiting for future science to finally unlock? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning the world around you.